Hello there everyone, Sylvan Bard here, and welcome to another movie review. The idea of monsters under your bed or in your closet is an old-time classic thing to scare kids. And several movies and shows have played with that idea, with some working more than others, but putting a spin on it. But Disney and Pixar did a movie that not only toyed around with the same concept, but is very entertaining and very memorable. And this movie is known as Monsters Incorporated, or Monsters Inc. In a city called Monstropolis, two monsters named James P. Sullivan, or Sully, and Mike Wazowski work in a factory called Monsters Incorporated that produces energy by getting the power of children's screams, in which the best scary monster goes into a child's room through a closet door. But after a day of work, Sully finds an abandoned door that holds a girl who ventures into Monstropolis, following Sully, yet also scaring the other monsters around. So Mike and Sully had to bring the girl, whom Sully names Boo, back to her door at the factory, while also avoiding their competitor Randall Boggs, who's after Boo, and finding out a plot that saves Monstropolis through a means that is quite complicated, yet simple to understand. And I'll get into that a little later, but first, let's go over the things that I like about it. Firstly, the designs of the monsters are pretty colorful and even creative. The textures and look of them are pretty impressive. Secondly, the animation is fun and oftentimes funny, even when Sully goes to the trash compactor, thinking that Boo is among the garbage, and makes such shocking expressions that pay homage to the Chuck Jones short Feed the Kitty. Interesting, considering that one of the directors worked on The Simpsons, that parodies another Chuck Jones film. Thirdly, the characters are pretty great. They are all likable and fun, and provide lots of good or funny moments. And lastly, but not leastly, is that really a word? Well, I'm saying it is. The main character in the film often goes by the name of Sully, and I found that to be a coincidence that there is a character with my name, and everyone I know knows me for having the name of the character, when I found out that his name is not only a nickname, yet it's spelled differently, but pronounced similar. Even his friend has the same name as my dad, but let's not get carried away. So, with all the good things this film has to offer, what's not to like? Well, the one thing that's not the best in the film is the story. Now, it's not really the first act of the film, it's more like the second and third act, in particular when it turns out that Mr. Waternoose, the head of Monsters Inc., is the main villain, with Randall being his second-in-command or whatever. It's mostly due to the complicated twist that Waternoose wants to kidnap children in order to get the scream shortage to meet its demands or something. And honestly, I don't get it. Even when Waternoose himself says he'll kidnap 1,000 children before he lets the company die. I mean, with all the talks of kids being toxic and one touch could kill them, it doesn't make sense or even made clear as to why or how this idea of kids being scary came about. Okay, it's funny that monsters are scared of kids as kids are scared of monsters, but it needs to be more clear from the monster's perspective. And even then, Boo isn't scared of the monsters, except for Randall and when Sully demonstrates his scare technique, and Sully didn't die from Boo touching him. But then there's the fact that Roz, the company's administrator, is also an undercover CDA officer and is named Number 1. In one way it's funny to look at, but it's another thing to think about, and it's kind of confusing. And another thing about Boo, how does she get around so quickly and sometimes not spotted? That one's kind of a nitpick to me. Now, I love to talk about the bloopers and the company play that happens during the end credits, but the DVD I own is the version that was released in theaters for 3D, so there's none of that. And the actors voicing the characters did a very good job. John Goodman voices James P. Sully Sullivan, Billy Crystal voices Mike Wazowski, Mary Gibbs voices Boo, Steve Buscemi voices Randall Boggs, James Coburn voices Henry J. Waternoose, Jennifer Tilly voices Celia, Bob Peterson voices Roz, John Ratzenberger voices the Abominable Snowman, and Frank Oz voices Fungus. As a whole, this movie is enjoyable. The characters are fun, the story, though at times complicated, is a good one, and the animation is really well done. Directors Pete Docter, Leon Courage, and David Silverman had done a good job at presenting a fun comedy about monsters and what they go through, with fun-looking designs, great characters, and nice animation. While the story is jumbled and hard to grasp near the end, it doesn't bother me too much because the characters and animation are so good. And it all works out with funny moments, heartfelt moments, and scary moments that aren't too intense. And in the end, it's a nice little film. So today, this movie will get a rating of 3 stars. So thank you for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Facebook or Twitter, and tune in next week for the prequel. And speaking of characters named Sully, here's a movie I went to see that has the same name as me. So I hope you enjoy it. Here's a movie I wanted to see and got a chance to see it the day after it came out. It's the historical drama film simply titled Sully, based on the book Highest Duty by Chelsea Sully Sullenberger and Jeffrey Zaslow. The story is the untold story of airline pilot Captain Chelsea Sully Sullenberger. After landing the U.S. Airways Flight 1549 in the Hudson River after a bird strike on January 15, 2009, in which he has fears of not landing the plane, having second thoughts of being called a hero, and facing a hearing with aviation officials to determine if he could make it back to the airport after what happened. Director Clint Eastwood has done a wondrous job at capturing the miracle on the Hudson and the untold story of Sullenberger's life as a pilot, his fears of not landing the plane, and his notion of being called a hero. It not only has a wonderful story, but it also has good characters, nice visuals, and amazing effects when needed. But once the film ended with a great and funny line, and the end credits feature footage and photos of the real Sullenberger and passengers, the whole film gave me a good feeling by the end of it. And all of it is really well done. So today I'm giving this movie a rating of 3 stars. And that is it. Thank you for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Facebook or Twitter, and tune in next week for another movie review. Until then, take care. Hello everyone, Simon Bart here, and welcome to another movie review. And speaking of characters named Sully, here's a movie that I went to see that has the same name as me. So that is it. Thank you for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Facebook or Twitter, and tune in next week for another movie review. So, take